Good evening, everybody. Are we ready to start, Paul? Yeah. Welcome to this Cabinet meeting on the 4th of March 2025. Item 1 is apologies for absence. We do not have any apologies for absence this evening. Item 2 is declarations of interest. I need to ask if any member present has any interest to declare in any item on the agenda. No, thank you very much. Item 3 is minutes of the Cabinet meeting held on the 11th of February 2025. May I ask if Cabinet is happy for me to sign the minutes as a true and accurate record of that meeting? Agreed. Agreed. Thank you very much. Chair's announcements. I'm going to hand over to the Deputy Chairman, Councillor Golby, for one announcement this evening.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to formally acknowledge Stuart Lackenby. It's his last Cabinet meeting, and acknowledge the excellent work that Stuart's contributed to our council from day one, basically. And I've had the pleasure of working with Stuart, and you've been one of the best officers I've had the pleasure of working with, Stuart. And I wish you well in your new job. And I'm sure it's going to be an easier job in Birmingham City. So that's all. But I just wanted to formally acknowledge, the fantastic contribution you've made to our place. So thank you.
And I think those comments are absolutely endorsed and echoed by all of us. So thank you very much for your years of service with us, Stuart. They're very much appreciated. Item 5 is urgent business. We have none. Item 6 is reports from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Likewise, we don't have any reports from Overview and Scrutiny this evening. So we'll move on to the Corporate Plan Performance Report. This is our usual quarterly review of the KPIs that are reported back to Cabinet. Pleased to confirm that Overview and Scrutiny recently concluded a task and finish group exercise in reviewing the KPIs, and there will be some amendments to those for future quarterly performance reports. It was a good constructive piece of cross-party working that I think will improve the transparency of the operations here at WNC. Members will also notice that this evening's quarterly performance report is the first to include the standing item or the regular updates on NPH's performance, reporting back to Cabinet the key metrics on the Council's housing ALMO following the referral to the regulator of social housing. So I would say that looking through the report, it's very much a mixed bag on the NPH performance. They have made very, very positive strides on the most urgent aspects of their performance, clearing the emergency works within the required deadlines. One source of concern to me is just the void turnaround times. I think that's something that really needs to be improved upon, given the level of demand on housing and the importance of that income into the HRA as well. Looking across the corporate performance, the quarterly performance report as a whole, I'll just pick out some of the positive performance in adults, where 54% of care acts is reviewed completed in the past 12 months. Positive performance as well in expenditure on disabled facilities grant. We do continue to have significant concerns about EHCP plans, and we're experiencing significant delays in getting the required information and diagnoses from some of our health partners. We're working closely with them to improve that situation, and as a council we recognise that this area of performance is not where we want or need it to be. Moving on to priority 3, which is our connected communities. 97% of reported defects in our roads have been allocated and closed within the timeframe specified. On priority 4, we have 84 more affordable homes completed. Of course, no further council homes built due to the winding down of NPH's house building programme, but we are, as members will be aware, moving forward at speed with the Housing Delivery Board in order to accelerate the delivery of affordable housing across the district. One particular performance improvement to note, I think, is the improvement in planning. And I'd like to thank officers in planning and our Cabinet Member for Planning, Councillor Smith, in his work to get those planning application processing times into the 90s in terms of the percentages in which they're completed. That's a really positive step forward after a long period of time during which the planning team were not at capacity and were struggling with backlogs. And I'd also like to acknowledge Councillor Breeze's work in putting in place the foundations that have allowed us to get back to a better place in terms of delivery there. Moving on to priority 5 and economic development, we continue to employ a significant number of apprentices in WNC. It's particularly important that as a council that endorses the employment of apprentices, that we lead by example, and we continue to do that. It's an excellent piece of work by all involved. Numbers on the council tax reduction scheme are relatively stable, which we hope is a positive indicator of the local economy. Priority 6 is our key economic indicators. Good delivery on payment of invoices at 98.8%. And our council tax collection rate is extremely close to target at 82.83%, with 1/4 of the year remaining. Likewise for business rates collection. So with that, I will open the floor to Cabinet members to highlight any particular areas within their own portfolios, and we'll start with Councillor Golby.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to highlight, as you picked up, some quite strong performance across adult social care and public health reported in the report, starting with the admission to residential and nursing care homes by 100,000 for the 18 to 64s and the age 65 plus, which is very good, strong performance. Also, the older people who are still at home, 91 days after discharge from hospital. There's some good performance increase over the period due to some excellent work by our reablement teams. And then just moving through onto public health, things like the infants due new birth visits. There's some excellent performance at 96%. And infants have received the 6 to 8 week review by the time they were 8 weeks. Again, we're very good in comparison to national averages. Again, same with the weight management service, and also the smoking quit rate at 4 weeks is on the increase. Also, mothers known to be smokers at time of delivery. There's progress in this area too. So also I want to mention the completions around adult alcohol treatment and drug treatment, which is a very challenging area, but that is getting better, and obviously links to one of the papers that we've got a bit later on this evening. So some good solid performance, and obviously we always want to try and do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Golby. Councillor Lowett.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to refer to our priority 3, the first indicator there. Unfortunately, it only achieved 97% overall. But when you drill down, there is unfortunately a reason for this. We did very well in October and November, and I'm told that we've done very well in January too. But December, unfortunately, took a bit of a dive because of a couple of severe weather events that came about. And one of them caused 72 serious reports to be made in a very short period of time. And because there were so many in that short period of time, and unfortunately, we failed to attend 5 of those within the 24-hour timescale. In overall numbers, it's not a lot, but it does impact on performance, and that's the reason for it. But other than that, I think, as I say, October, November, we did very well, exceeding the target or achieving the target. And as I say, we've also, I believe, achieved well in January. So just wanted to explain that discrepancy, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Loughton. Still within half a percentage point of target anyway, despite all of those challenges. So any other comments from Cabinet members at this point? Councillor Baker.
Thank you. Obviously, we're disappointed with our EHCP numbers, as you would be, and I agree we need to improve timeliness, but the 20-week indicator is not the sole perimeter of success. Quality of plans is really improving, and our DFE stocktake that we had last month recognised this in many areas that we have improved. The 20-week improvement, Chair Director, will show improvement as we move forward. We now have, it's taken time and effort to get a really good team in place to work on this area, and we've now got a really good person as the head of SEND, Louisa Jones, who is doing an excellent job in the few weeks she's been with us, and I'm sure is going to make a huge difference going forward. And we have Russell Lloyd, who is now a new person in the best start for life. So between us, I think we now have the right team in place to move forward. It has taken time, as we all know, and it's not something we would have wanted to take this long over, but we now are in a really good place to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bees.
Thank you, Leader. I'd like to mention a couple of things. First of all, the improvement in the waste recycling figures and also in the residual waste treated. So that's waste that's not going to landfill. And also mentioned that our new residual waste partners, Talia, have committed to a target of 95%, which I don't think we're going to see reflected in the next corporate priorities, but is certainly an ambitious stretch target that we look forward to working with them to achieve in due course, because that is a pretty impressive target to have only 5% going to landfill. Also, the increase in EV charging points, which though slow, we now, of course, have our EV strategy, and I think we will start to see an improvement in those figures. But I'd also like to draw attention to what I think are abominable and astonishing figures, which is our fly tips cleared. I think it's astonishing that our waste teams in the last quarter had to clear up 4,579 waste tips, and all credit to them for actually doing that, because that's a heck of a lot of waste. But I think it's abominable that we have this problem, and that there is that level of fly tipping, particularly in Northampton. And it's something that I'm absolutely focused on in my portfolio, and want to mention our Improving Environments programme, which is ramping up now, which is about education, clearing up, community involvement, and improving whole aspects of environment and in our street scene. Is just starting, and we're going to really be focusing on that as a absolute priority going forward. And I really hope to see with our partners those fly tips cleared just dropping away. I think it's absolutely abominable.
Agreed. Thank you, Councillor Bees. Any further comments from Cabinet members? Councillor Hallam.
Thank you, Leader. I'm a little bit tied up in wires here, so I've got my notes in front of me as well. So excuse me while I try and refer to that and not disconnect the whole of the camera system at the same time. I just want to point out some things on customer satisfaction, because we were up 10% on last quarter, which is a great start. Over 80% of complaints were resolved at the first stage, but that's all within the context with a record number of calls that we received last year. So I did just want to share some stats around the total number of calls, because I think it puts that jump into context when you realise just how high demand is at the moment. So in 2023, we received 420,000 calls. In 2024, we received 495,837, so just shy of 500,000 calls into the contact centre. That's an increase of nearly 18%. And if you do some quick maths on that, it tells you it's roughly 450 calls a day, and it's it's roughly a call a minute. So that tells you just the level of demand we've got out there at the moment. Now, we can debate all night long the reasons behind that, but I just want to put on record our thanks for the customer service agents that we have working really hard under that record level of demand.
Absolutely, they do a sterling job. Thank you, Councillor Hallam. Any further comments from the Cabinet? In which case we'll turn to Councillor Herring. Did you want to say anything? Or?
Well, I think it's well documented, the journey that we're on, having referred to the social housing regulator. There's improvement plans going on apace. You mentioned voids, and having been round with officers and MPH, we agreed some weeks ago a different way of dealing with the voids, and there's now a weekly meeting set up with officers and MPH to accelerate that. Not helped, of course, by the backlog in the allocations, but that there's an improvement plan been provided for that. And that is, it should improve in Q4, which will ease that situation. And the Housing Delivery Board is due to meet the end of this month, 26th of March, so that we should see movement going forward with when that gets going. And I have a meeting on Friday with MPH going forward with their new system of complaints.
Thank you very much. We'll turn now to our to the members who wish to speak on this report. We have 4 registered, Councillors Purser, Holland Delamere, Randall and Beardsworth. So if I can invite Councillor Purser to the table, please. Yeah, there's a little person
I shall
button.
do that. Right. I won't cut myself off in before I've started. I just really want to welcome the inclusion of the social housing data within the report. I think that's a good thing that it comes to Cabinet and that it's open and transparent, and the real challenges that are faced there are looked at openly. I think I'd want to just pick up the 2 points that have already been made on this. The number of complaints is still very high, and I think we really do need to see that coming down, and I would hope the action that's being taken is going to affect that. It's related to the speed at which we do repairs. Repairs take place, and it really is, we've got to get on top of that so that people get their repairs done in a timely way. I think then the complaints will come down, but it is a real and continues to be a real issue. So that's the first point. I think the second issue, this issue of voids, because this time last year and before, I was warning that as we brought the system in-house, that unless we addressed the way the system operated, we were going to have problems with voids, and this is what has come to pass. And I'm really concerned about that we're not getting people into housing as quickly as we might. And I really want to understand what measures are now in place to make sure we're going to sort that out, because having empty houses is really unacceptable when we've got so many people in temporary housing and on our waiting list. I suppose the final point is just to find out when are the Castle Street houses going to come on stream, because they look ready. And we know from past experience of small things that really get in the way of things coming on stream, and that it really needs to get sorted, because we're so short of social housing, and these houses are really all that's coming online. So the sooner they're available to us, the better. So those are my comments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Purser. I'll just address one point, which is about the reasons behind the voids. I think if you read the commentary within Appendix 2 on the void rent loss, it does prescribe the void rent loss to a backlog of fit to rent properties at MPH's end, rather than anything to do with the allocations side of the operation. So we're back to maintenance effectively. So that's something that can be. We'll continue to press that message home, but I don't know if the Cabinet Member for Housing or the AD for Housing wish to comment.
I've just been shown that the Castle Street, the properties were handed over last week and will be let very shortly.
There's an answer for Councillor Purser there. Good news. Keith, Councillor Holland-Delamere. Thank you.
Thank you. It's good to see that housing benefits has progressed in the right direction. I note that, of course, it won't be on track fully for this financial year. Have we got a sort of time frame in mind in terms of when we will be reaching our targets? Because I know of the knock-on effects that this has in terms of allocations, because if people have got housing benefit arrears, of course they can't let, etc., which means you end up with another backlog somewhere else, etc. So I'm just really interested to see what sort of timeframes we're looking at for the recovery of the housing benefits backlog.
Thank you, Keith. Do our finance team have any response to that point?
Yes, Keith, thanks for that one. I thought you might bring that up. And as you can see, that's the end of the third quarter. This is going in the right direction, as you can plainly see, as we said it would. And the new system coming in, I think that'll be progressively so. When we get to the next financial year, it'll continue that on a month-by-month basis. And so I would say, I won't be here to answer to this, but my judgment would be about a half year, you'll be back on track. Next year, next financial year.
Thank you, Councillor Longley. Councillor Randall. We need to press the button.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know where to start, really. I've read through over and over this and thinking, it's a lot of this is the same old. So fly tipping, huge amounts of fly tipping that we've just seen year on year. But we don't seem to have done anything to change that. And what I would like to see really is how that fly tipping is broken down across the three areas under the three contracts, to see where actually this fly tipping, the majority of this is. Is it more town centre, and what the fly tipping is. If it's trade waste and in the rural areas under that, could we see that broken down? So EHCPs, again, it's just absolutely shocking. And we had a bit of a spike when we brought in some extra staff, and then we've gone straight back down again. I don't know why. Did the staff come in and did they leave? What happened? And, was the delay due to lack of educational psychologists to contribute to the statutory assessments? I'd really like to know some more on that. What is the plan for the specialist spaces, going forward? Then smoking quit rate for 4 weeks. I understand we got some extra funding from the National Vaping Swap to Stop scheme. How did you utilise this extra funding to improve the outcomes? And how many people have previously used the service? Health checks to spot early signs of stroke and heart disease seems to be way below where it is. Why? Children on a child protection plan for the second time, 31.7%. Now,
Why is that? Does that mean the support isn't there once they've come off that protection plan? You know, that is really, really scary to think they are nearly a third of our children are back on a protection plan for the second time. Customer service satisfaction, I mean, that's dropped again. I'd be interested to know where the majority of those calls come in and what are they for. And unavoidable calls, you know, it's a huge, huge number. Why are they unavoidable? You know, what?
It's not dropped, to the point that's not dropped, it's 10% over, 10% down.
But do you not think it's shocking? I don't, you know, is there, yeah, but.
Sorry, Councillor Hallam, let's let Councillor Randall finish, then we'll come back to people for answers.
You know, why have we got such a large number of calls coming in? Is it because the website's not easy to use? You know, and what, you know, I'd just like to understand what they're coming in for and why. And is there any way we can break that down a bit? Is it, you know, for a certain thing? Is it for council tax queries, or what may it be? It would be useful to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Randall. Lots of points in there. I think if we can have a copy of your notes and the different requests, we'll get answers to the specific data points. The request for a breakdown of fly tips by the different geographies, I think, is a really fair request. I'd challenge the assertion that we haven't done anything on this. You can see the level of activity that's taking place. We regularly issue press releases identifying the very hefty fines that we issue against perpetrators. So we take action wherever possible, and we've heard tonight from Councillor Breeze the additional actions that are going to be taken. Ultimately, the vast majority of these fly tips boil down to really ignorant behaviour by ignorant people. And, you know, we should all be united in our condemnation of that behaviour, because it's a blight on our towns and our countryside. And, you know, we have fantastic teams who respond to almost every fly tip within the allocated timescales. I think it's 2 days in Northampton, certainly. But we'll continue to do whatever we can on that front. If they're reported, they'll be collected, the fly tips that have just been mentioned, which people listening in on won't have heard. I'll go to Councillor Hallam first of all.
Thank you. It was just to correct that. So to go on the record with this, previous quarter was 55.6%. We track level of satisfaction. So the higher the number, the better. And the previous quarter, it was 66.4. I don't know if you want to go back to Councillor Bearsworth and they'll come back in the main debate.
Other members or officers may wish to come back on some of the other points raised. So looking over at Councillor Baker and the Executive Director for People Services.
Yeah, I think I'd like to pass over to Stuart to explain in detail a bit more about some of Councillor Randall's questions.
Thanks, Councillor Baker. Councillor Randall, as you can kind of see within the commentary around the HCPs, the timeliness around our completion of plans isn't just something that the council is able to influence solely. We have to rely on our partners to provide a timely response to those plans. There are a whole host of complexities which affect our ability to deliver these plans in a timely manner. I'm more than happy to kind of meet with you next week to take you through the details so you understand this. I'm also happy to share with you the trajectories that we've gone through with the DfE around improving this as a particular indicator. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're ready to go to Councillor Bearsworth.
Thought I got in place, Chair, when you're ready for me. That's the main thing. Just a few things. I mean, I'm very concerned about the void properties, basically because we're not getting rent and we've got people on the waiting list. So basically that to me is a high priority to get those turned around quickly for both of those reasons. 14 years ago, when I was portfolio for housing, I spent 58 million bringing up some of the council houses with kitchens and bathrooms. Now, kitchens have to be done every 20 years and bathrooms, I think, every 30 years. So we've only got 6 years before people want new kitchens again. But I also want to point out that we have an awful lot of good tenants, really good tenants that look after their property and look after their garden and look after everything. And then we have a few tenants that wreck their homes, and it costs the council a lot of money to put it right. And often we don't pursue them for the charges of what the damage was. And often we move them to another brand new house and say, here you are, it's another brand new house. Go and wreck that one. We've got to come down a little bit firmer on these sort of people because it's not fair on the good tenants that look after their property. We've got to come down and actually make sure that people who do wreck their properties and don't look after them do have some sort of comeback on that. And I think that's something we could look at next year. I do worry about the fact that I was looking at I know the reason why we're not building council houses, but it's such a shame that we haven't built any because of the waiting list and the people in temporary accommodation. And 84 affordable homes completed. It's not the best. I know it's difficult, a difficult climate and everything else like that, but it's something that I really feel that we could do a lot quicker. Also, I looked here and they said that there's a reduction in the satisfaction for repair service. Well, that could be to do with the fact that some of our stuff is getting old and it's difficult to repair, and sometimes you haven't got the stuff to replace it. So we've got to look at that as well, and looking at different things. Also, I didn't quite this one. It said that tenants be treated fairly and respect, and I think that should be absolutely the most important thing, that we treat our tenants, because without them, housing wouldn't have a job. You know, they are, and we should treat them better. A lot of things have been said tonight I agree with. Fly tipping is a real problem, and hopefully if we get the tips open every day, then we'll get more people using the tips. But we need to look out for jobbing builders, because they are the worst for leaving things like that are difficult to move. So just have that problem. But it sounds all by what you've been saying tonight that you feel quite satisfied with what the job that you've been doing. But as my old headmaster used to put on adverts, could do better.
We'll note our school report from the Liberal Democrat Party and take it under advisement. Thank you, Councillor Beardsworth. Any particular comments that Councillor Herring you want to pick up on?
I just wanted to say about the voids. When I went round with MPH and we discussed voids, one of the houses that we went to was one that was going to need significant monies to bring back to a lettable state, and we did say that we should be pursuing tenants that leave the properties in this state, even if we know we are not going to get the money back. The very fact that they then have a charge against them means that they can't go through the merry-go-round and come back to our authority and be eligible for yet another property. So thank you, Councillor, because that is exactly what we've asked to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Herring. Councillor Hallam.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to come back on a couple of points from Councillor Randall as well. We've relaunched the website. It's actually gone down really well, and Councillor Wellhaby was involved in that. So I had some really positive feedback, particularly around peer review and stuff like that over the website. So I don't think it's the website. What I think it is that's driving this is complex financial cases. And I can give you a really good example. So today was announced a biggest rise in food prices. I think of the year, it was all over the morning news. So people don't necessarily pick up the phone to us and say, hey, the food prices have gone up. But what they do is they make a choice. If they're really in a complex financial position, they make a really difficult choice between eating and potentially something such as paying the council tax. And that's how that triggers the call to us. So it's these complex financial cases that are really taking up time, and we're having to dedicate the time that it needs and requires to speak to these people. And the overarching reason that's driving all of that, I think you know my view on it, yours will be different. We won't debate it tonight. We'll have plenty of time to debate it over the next 50 days or so.
Thank you, Councillor Hallam. But I think just to emphasise that we are always happy to hear from those people, and we're here to help anyone in those situations. Councillor Golby, one last comment, and then we'll go to the vote.
Yeah, just going back to Councillor Randall's question around smoking, just to say that we've used the additional funding to really focus on inequality groups, particularly working with those communities where levels are higher. And an example would be people working in manual operations. So if you wanted any more detail, I could provide that. And also around health checks, we've reviewed the contract and performance is improving. And again, there's a huge focus around reaching out to inequality groups. So if you'd like any further detail, I could pick that up.
Thank you very much. The recommendations are just to note the contents of the various reports. Is Cabinet agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed. Thank you very much. We move on then to item 8, which is our climate change strategy. I'll ask Councillor Breeze to introduce the report, and then we have a public speaker and one speaker from the council membership.
Thank you, Leader. I'm pleased to be able to present the Council's climate change strategy to Cabinet for adoption. Sorry, I've just distracted here by... No, I'll carry on. Okay. This policy is the culmination of 12 months' work by the sustainability team. But firstly, I'd like to thank the other members of the sustainability group who have been involved in various stages of development, and that's Councillors Humphreys, Harris, Duffy and Purser. Thank you both. Thank you all. And to reflect how this policy cuts across so many activities of the Council, I'd also like to recognise the input of planning, waste and assets teams and members of the Cabinet too. As part of the development of the strategy, a public pre-engagement consultation was undertaken to understand what the public's priorities were. This helped inform the first draft, which went before Cabinet and out to consultation between November and January this year. It was the responses from this consultation that helped strengthen the commitment to deliver the vision. In an effort to reach and engage younger residents during the consultation phase, a new sustainability Instagram account was launched with a short reel promoting the strategy consultation. I'm pleased to say that this was viewed in excess of 1,800 times. Feedback was received from local organisations including Climate Action West Northants, Brixworth Climate Action Group and the Ramblers Northampton, as well as scores of individuals. We further received some excellent feedback from Dr. Ebenezer Larrea, a climate change specialist formerly of our own University of Northampton, now of Aston University, which also informed this final draft. By focusing on key areas such as energy, buildings, transport, waste, nature, and the economy, the strategy aims to create innovative and adaptive solutions that place people at the heart of achieving our aims. But the success of this strategy relies on continuous monitoring, evaluation and adaptation. The Council is committed to regularly reviewing progress, engaging with stakeholders and making necessary adjustments to ensure the effective implementation of the strategy. By fostering a culture of sustainability and resilience, West Northamptonshire can navigate the challenges of climate change and build a prosperous, sustainable future for generations to come. This is a call to action for everyone in West Northamptonshire to work together towards a vibrant, healthy and resilient environment for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Breeze. We'll turn now to our public speaker, Mr. Dave Pearson. Mr. Pearson, if you'd like to come to the table and press the button on the microphone.
Thank you, Chair. We're in a crisis, so I'll be blunt. This climate change strategy says the right things, but the rubber won't hit the road until the action plan is published in the autumn. The action plan will need to be bold, but you'll be tempted to water it down. For a variety of reasons. The links between cause and effect are not immediately obvious. Spending money on obvious actions like fixing potholes will get you more credit with the public. And short-term politicians don't always get the credit for long-term solutions. So I appeal to you to resist the temptation to produce a weak action plan. We've just heard that the Council is committed to engaging with stakeholders. I'd like to talk about one of them. This Council has been embarrassed by the umbrella Climate Emergency Action Hub, highlighting your lethal lethargy on air pollution, corruption in leadership, and tardiness on the climate crisis. And in an egregious abuse of power, you have served them with an eviction notice just when Northampton needs them most. We need all hands on deck because our planet is in crisis. The scientists keep sounding the alarm, but the politicians keep hitting the snooze button. Politicians are used to negotiating compromises, but the laws of thermodynamics don't compromise. And astonishingly, some politicians even call the climate crisis a hoax. The oil companies have switched tactics from denial to delay and bought influence with spineless and corrupt politicians who have then kicked the climate can down the road for 50 years, leaving this generation with a much harder and much more urgent task. So you now have a duty to step up and lead rapid and radical change, phrases seldom associated with local authorities. But people struggle with change. So the action plan will need to be a huge component of public engagement to counter the culture war being waged against climate action. It is essential to win hearts and minds and make sure as many people as possible understand and are part of a just transition. In order to do that, this council will need to grow a backbone and stand up to the inevitable backlash that change will bring. Our decisions don't just impact us. People in Africa, Asia, and the Americas are suffering droughts, floods, wildfires, and crop failures right now. So when you are tempted to slow down, to do less, to chicken out of the hard decisions that need to be made, just remember these two things. You can't negotiate a slower rate of heating with the laws of thermodynamics, and the climate catastrophe impacts everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. Now have councillors Harris and McCord. I thought we'd take the witness for the defence first and then the witness for the prosecution.
Thank you, Chair. I'm glad you're saving Councillor McCord for the second part of this. Just a few comments, if I may, on this. I want to echo the comments that Councillor Breeze made. The cross-party group has been fairly relentless in sticking at this for the past 4 years, and you know, it is a labour of love in many ways. Having said that, it isn't perfect. Nothing ever is in life, and just to acknowledge the comments of Mr. Pearson, unfortunately compromise does always come into the mix when you have different perspectives and views. But the group set out really fundamentally to ensure that we had, to coin a phrase, some sort of sustainable plan that was going to be sustainable and not something that would end up being a political football. And I think, you know, commend all political groups that were sat around that table, because I think broadly, more or less, that is where we've got to. But that does require some degree of compromise. So I want to just make some comments really about the document, the proposal, and how it should move forward, basically. So it is a step in the right direction. Cabinet might remember that there was a motion moved back in, I think it was July 2021 by the administration, who wanted to proudly come out and redeclare the desire to support the climate emergency. The Lib Dems moved an amendment at that time, which was around the net zero goals, which didn't succeed at that particular meeting, but did at a later date. So it's taken a long time. July 2021 was when this was first declared. So we can't continue to operate at that pace. Now we have the outline of a climate strategy. We need to move forward quicker. It's good to see that the powers in place have been featured, and those of you around the table will know that I've banged the drum for the UK 100 network, all of the good work that they're doing, and shared quite a lot of the really good information that's put together. And that was my mission, really, was to bring it back and ensure that we did something with it. This strategy, though, still lacks in some areas, and where it fundamentally lacks at the moment is a financing section, which is what I wanted to see in the original draft, but it didn't make the final version. We've already heard that there's dialogue. Councillor Balcombe will talk a lot about the plans for what we can do to become net zero, more energy efficient as a council itself. As we discussed at a recent meeting, still haven't seen those plans. This particular working group has not seen those plans. So there's far more to do, basically. And actually, what I also think, moving forward, if any of us have background any of the tables that exist here in the future, that I would like to see this particular working group get more teeth. That's something I think we've tried to do, but it still doesn't quite have the teeth that it needs. And it needs much more focus and much more governance to make sure that we deliver. Now, Councillor McCord in a moment, I'm sure, will tell us it's all not needed and we're moving at a pace that we don't need to. It's interesting to look at the feedback from the One West North Hants consultation to note how many people are talking about environmental sustainability, actually front and centre, actually pretty much on most of the core themes. So there is a movement out there, whether we like it or not, and there's good reason for that, because there is a need. I just want to finish with one quick point. Council Leader, I love the way that you're mind reading at the moment, and I noted with interest as we enter silly season that you're speculating in the press that the Lib Dems or Labour would introduce ULEZ. I can assure him this evening that the Lib Dems would not be introducing ULEZ. Whether other councils do or don't, that's a matter for them. So any members of the public out there, that is not on our agenda, and you heard it here first. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor House, and good news that you're following our lead on this topic. So, Councillor McCord.
New boxes. Thank you, Adam. I've got three questions that then lead to a fourth. One, how are we going to achieve this ambition? Two, how much will it cost? And three, how are we going to pay for it? And none of those seem to have been answered with a strategy. And that leads to the fourth question then, why are we doing it? The only answer is that it's fashionable and there's no or falling popular support evidenced just from the consultation on this piece of work. Looking through the consultation responses, we had 92 replies, of which 70 were from residents. The budget had almost 400. The next item, the transport strategy, had nearer to 500 responses. Even by the low standards of response, we have proved net zero interest in net zero. Just 20% of those 92, that's 18 people, think this is achievable. But not a single one of those questions have majority support for any of the priorities or actions. 40% of 70 people supported. That's just over 2 dozen. Well, 28. There's 34 people in this room. So why are we going to, on the back of that, lecture 425,000 residents, give them extra cost, lecturing and hectoring about their way of life just from eco-zealots? Our industries are going to be shuttered to please the Green Brigade, our national security compromised as we abandon heavy industry, our energy security sacrificed on the altars of renewables without a plan for intermittency, and what we're going to do when the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine. Now, so some of this is sensible and it does not necessarily need this strategy. Solar and new build should be happening right now, but I do note our old friend viability is back in the mix and should be taken out. It's probably sensible to move to a lower carbon way of life. Setting unachievable targets, though, without a plan and without a budget is not the way to get there. We need to work with people and not hector, lecture or force them to do things that go against the grain. And we need to do this over a much longer time period and not some silly date plucked out of the air when the technological and manufacturing and engineering challenges are understood and actually have solutions that are commercially viable. And we need to stop pandering to the eco-idealists and the fundamentalists and have a strategy that might be based in reality and, above all, achievable and affordable. This one is neither. It has no support. nor one that anyone believes is achievable. And therefore, no one's going to be surprised when it's not delivered. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McCord. Councillor Breeze, did you want to respond to any of the contributors?
Yeah, thank you, Leader. It's interesting hearing two completely different points of view. I am really interested in building resilience and sustainability for our communities. But it is a fact that we have had exceptional rainfall. These things are going on. The plan, it's an evolution, and as we've heard, we're going to have an action plan which will be published in the autumn, and that will contain the financial costings that have been referred to this evening. That's all I've got to say on it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Breeze. We as a cabinet have seen this report over several iterations for several months now, and I think it's been on an extremely positive journey to a place where actually it is a very measured and sensible report. I don't recognise the charge of zealotry or any such extremism within this report. I think it's sought to be balanced and deliverable, and actually in no way to be hectoring or lecturing the public of West Northamptonshire. We recognise that we benefit our own environment by being more sustainable in so many of these ways. And I think whenever we go out to consultation, whenever we go out on the doorstep and speak to people, they may not be fully signed up to the global climate change argument, but they will always want to see their local park protected. They will always want their children to breathe clean air. Those hyper-local elements of environmentalism are extremely important to them, and that I think is what we have an absolute duty to deliver upon, and what this report particularly seeks to deliver. So I'm fully behind it in that regard. And I'm looking forward to the delivery plan. Do any other members of the Cabinet have any contributions to make? No? In which case then we'll go to the vote. Bear with me one moment. And it is just to approve and adopt the draft climate change strategy. Is Cabinet agreed? Agreed. Agreed. Thank you very much. And thank you to Mr. Pearson for his contributions this evening. We move on to item 9, which is the adoption of the West Northamptonshire Council Local Transport Plan, and that sits with Councillor Larratt.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm pleased to present this report tonight, which provides an update on the work that we've done to develop a new LTP for West Northamptonshire, and requests that Cabinet endorse this final draft and that we recommend its adoption to Council at our forthcoming meeting. Mr. Chairman, the Council has a statutory requirement to have an up-to-date local transport plan, and this provides a long-term strategy for transport service delivery and improvement. This is the first LTP of West Northamptonshire Council, and actually replaces the 2012 LTP of the County Council. The new plan, Mr. Chairman, has been in development since 2023 and has been guided by has been guided in its development by officers, councillors, and wider transport stakeholder groups. And I'd just like to thank our 3 officers who played a significant part in producing this document, which is very, very important to us going forward. That's James Povey, Penny Mould and Esme Cushing. I think they've done a really good job in bringing us this far. The draft plan was consulted on in the autumn, and the papers that are before you tonight include a report on the feedback received and updates that have been made in response. I think there's a very good section on "you said we did" at the end of the document. So, as I say, I'd like, in addition to thanking our officers, I'd like to thank all who participated in the development of the document and its consultation, which did receive over 500 responses. Mr. Chairman, the plan itself provides long-term strategy with an implementation plan for the next 5 years. Central to the plan is its 2045 vision for local transport and its 6 transport objectives presented under the 3 themes of connecting people better, shaping healthier places, mobility enabling prosperity. Following the adoption of the plan, focus will turn to its delivery. As part of this, we will produce a series of supporting strategies and action plans which will flesh out further detail on the transport improvements we will deliver, talking about things like the LC whips, town centre plan, etc., etc. So there's still work to be done, but that will be within this overarching plan. So this will, I'm seeking your members' approval tonight to recommend this to council, where I'm sure it will be thoroughly debated in a week or so's time. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Larratt. We've got 3 members speaking on this item, Councillors Purser, Holland-Delamere and Squires.
Thank you, Chair. I was a member of the group and I welcomed that it was dealt with on a cross-party basis. And I think that's a good way of developing this sort of policy for the authority. And I'd also want to associate my thanks with Councillor Larratt for the officers who served this and our consultants as well, who I think were used well in this situation. Now, just in case there's any doubt about the issue of low emission zones and the Labour Party's position on this. I was at the meetings. The Labour Party, I did not suggest at any stage that there should be a low emission zone for West Northamptonshire. But actually, the Labour Party is the party committed to dealing with air quality in our district. And we do want to see action on that, and we'll be campaigning on that. I'm afraid it was the Conservative administration in the borough who put the bus station where it is, which is our worst polluting bit in the town. So I just want to point that out, and hopefully this council will have learned the lessons from that council, and we won't be making that sort of mistake ever again. But it still needs putting right. And one of my concerns is that although we're getting electric buses, other authorities are going much faster on electric buses than we are. And I would really urge the administration to just speed up our introduction of electric buses here. Really just some minor points. I think one of the things that holds us back is our relationships with National Highways and Homes England. That seems to be one of the blockages of sorting out transport plans. I hope we can really work on improving those relationships so that our traffic schemes do come back forward a lot better. Potholes. I still see potholes being repaired. Yet 5 metres away, there is a pothole that isn't repaired in the same street. It would be good if we could just approach this in a sensible way. I suppose my one concern on reflection about this plan is whether we've made road safety enough of a priority in this plan. We still have deaths almost every week at the moment, serious injuries every week. We seem to accept that this is okay. It really isn't okay, the level of accidents that we are seeing every week goes on, and we need to work out what is it that would change that in this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Purser. I assure you that nobody here thinks that any deaths on our roads are okay, and we're constantly working with the relevant authorities to improve road safety. Completely endorse your comments around this being a cross-party piece of work. I think it's important that we get input from all areas of our district, and that naturally entails cross-party working. Just on the air quality around the bus station, Councillor Percy, you have a charming habit of identifying a problem but then highlighting the solution that the Conservatives are already implementing. And on this occasion, it's our fleet of electric buses. We are constrained by the available lead time from the manufacturer, so it is what it is. But as you correctly highlight, we are, with the help of Stagecoach and other funding sources, investing heavily in electric buses for Northampton to improve our air quality. So thank you very much. We'll move on now to Councillor Holland Delamere.
I reflect on the early days of the authority and how we had to put through a very rushed bus improvement strategy in the very early days. And I observe how under-resourced the team was in terms of creating the strategy for our area. And I can see that there has been improvement, but I am also concerned about the pace of change. One of the things that the report talks about is bus user representation, and one of the things we have been lacking is basically those bus user groups. A lot of the ones that did exist in the old borough that covered 75% of the bus usage have basically withered on the vine, and we do need to be really seeking to engage with our users, bus users, not just in the urban areas, but also in the rural areas. So we've got to make sure that we've got that balance of representation, because we do need that modal shift. And I'm observing that in our area, because we are so reliant, and I've said this before, on one operator, I'm getting complaints about the reliability of buses. We know that there's problems with resourcing in terms of staffing, but then creates unreliability, which basically means that people don't want to use the buses because basically they're unreliable, so they go back to cars. So we are in hands of basically one operator for 98% of our buses, basically. And we are heavily reliant on them delivering our strategy, but of course they can ignore us and do their merry old thing. Hoping with the future of strategic authorities and working with other authorities, we might be able to look at options to break up that monopoly, to actually get some proper competition into our area in order to drive that modal shift and that shift to mass transport in our area. But I know that Rome wasn't built in a day. And on the last note, I note that Councillor Barter, who has been our champion for railways, is not standing next time. So he will be a great loss to our authority. And I hope outside in the community, he will continue to assist councillors across the group, across the council, in that input of his wisdom on railway. And for the rest of the bus users group and the frustration that we've had with our random meetings, whatever happens in May, please have a more regular sort of dialogue with the bus users and the councillors bus group.
Thank you, Keith. Councillor Squires.
Thank you, Chair. We welcome the new transport plan, and I think we've all had an input to it, so thank you very much. That was very good. I note on the consultation we've had 460 comments on buses, so this remains a very important topic. We do acknowledge there has been some improvements over the last year, especially Hunsbury and Brixworth, so thank you very much for that. As a group, we'll keep pushing for further improvements to bus service across West Northants. We heard from Councillor Larratt that this is a statutory document. Well, we're hoping it's going to be a bit more than that. We will be revisiting this plan over the next 4 years to ensure we're actually delivering something. And this document is not sitting somewhere on a shelf gathering dust like the last one seemed to do. We'll wait with interest the action plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor McCord.
I think when it comes to potholes, we can easily beat 5 metres, Bob. I really don't understand at times where our criteria for fixing something and stopping and starting a repair, because I've got endless photographs, sad and all as it is when you look through your phone, of where the repair has stopped and literally not 5 metres away, but almost at the edge of where they've ran the black liquid tar stuff. You can still see the road defective, which is just going to form its own problem. And I think we need to look at that as a separate thing. And it's probably all about keeping the minimum amount of work necessary. And rural transport, those people, you know, I absolutely agree. And particularly, again, linked to your last item, if you really want any of these things to fly, you're going to have to try and sort something out about the cars. But you know what I'm going to say? We all know what the answer is. You've got to fix care to fix potholes, and you've got to fix care to fix rural transport. It's that simple, because we're all going to be, again, resource constrained with all of these things. Now, I was interested there, Phil, when you said, and we did. Farthinghoe said, we want a bypass, and you did nothing. I know there is a community event and so on now or very soon, but Farthinghoe needs a solution. And this council and this cabinet is lacking the political will to solve the problem. And let's not hide behind money. The political will this council has for a road in Northampton, it can buy any number of properties in Northampton when it wants to, and there's another one on the agenda tonight. It's the ultimate in sacrificing the rural for Northampton. And it's terrible that this plan could have helped and could have brought something up to give that community, that village, and that road relief, and we fluffed it again. And it'll probably be another 20 years before it even comes back on the agenda. I think that's a disgrace, and it needs to be looked at. I think they'll be turning up to council to make their own case. I just feel that this is a grave opportunity. It needs to be sorted. They've got 2 members on the cabinet here. We need to get that problem sorted. It's probably as far away from my house as possible to get and still be in the district. So I've got no other skin in the game, and I just think it's a grave injustice to that village and that part of the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McCord. We will be hearing from some of our members about the Farthinghoe bypass, but many of the projects mentioned just there have business cases behind them that mean that the investment, wherever it may be, is justified, and it means that the council will ultimately get its money back. But shall I go to Councillor Breeze first of all, reference the Farthinghoe bypass?
Yes, thank you. It's incredibly difficult, and Rosie and I, and actually I'd also like to thank Tony Baggott-Webb, who have put in endless hours. We have got this public exhibition to explain to residents on Monday the options that are on the table that have been to the parish council and are at certain circumstances ready to proceed with, but we need the buy-in of the village. The original drafts of the LTP had just absolutely minimal reference to the bypass, which at between 30 and 37 million will take enormous amount of infrastructure to pay for. The funding just doesn't seem to come from central government for that sort of infrastructure at this point of time under the previous government, or this other government new government hasn't changed its tune. Councillor Herring and I will keep batting away. I mean, I raised this initially in 2019 and reignited this desire for a bypass, and I am fully behind their ambitions. And I thank the officers for at last taking on Councillor Herring's and my entreaties on board and mentioning it in quite a substantive document, paragraph on page 10, and also recognising Cold Ashby, who have similar aspirations and who had similar difficulties in addressing their problems. It will continue to be an aspiration for as long as I'm a councillor. We're right at the end of West Northamptonshire. We suffer from what's going on in terms of development of employment land in Cherwell and also in Milton Keynes. It's an absolute through route. It's a long. The A422 is one of the longest A roads, and we will keep pushing for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Herring.
I've got to add to that, but I also thank officers for actually listening to our pleas and making and adding in the paragraphs that said that this will be kept under review as a live request throughout the period of this plan. You do not need an algorithm to tell you that that pinch point in Farthinghoe is unsafe for the volume of traffic and the size of the vehicles that are having to use that A road. I think it's important that we keep this under review. There may be other funding opportunities, or there may be other factors that mean that that becomes a higher priority during the period of this plan. But we're not going anywhere anyway soon. But we'll certainly thank officers also for the efforts they've gone to arrange this public meeting, which is the 10th of March, to look at what can be done with the constraints that we have in the budget. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Councillor Golby.
Thank you, Chair. Just very briefly, I just wanted to acknowledge the involvement of public health in the preparation of this plan, and just goes to show the reach public health has into virtually every directorate of the council, which was one of the original challenges I put to Sally when we first spoke about embedding public health across all of the council. I think we're achieving that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Back to Councillor Lowett to sum up.
And I thank Councillor Golby, first of all, for those comments. That's, and I think we've tried to involve public health in other aspects of the work we're doing, such as the LC whips and the active travel strategy. So, yes, we're keen to engage with all we possibly can. Air quality obviously is a big issue. I think I heard a councillor blame the bus station. Well, you can't blame the bus station because it's the buses that are the problem. It's the buses, not the bus station. And we have, at the earliest opportunity, done everything we can to try and overcome the problems that we've got. And as you say, Leader, we have 51 new electric buses on order for use in Northampton. Yes, there will still be some diesel ones, but 51 new electric buses is really going to have an impact on air quality in the vicinity of the bus station. It's not the bus station itself, it's the buses, and we're making the right decisions to try and address that. The speed of the delivery is all dependent on the manufacturers. The buses are ordered, they are building them, and they are on their way, but there's not a lot we can do to actually make that go quicker. A couple of people mentioned the questions of joined up working with regard to potholes. It is happening and it's not happening. I went out into a rural area the other week, and I was very impressed to see that some of the smaller potholes in the vicinity of others had actually been addressed. They'd been along and they'd taken every opportunity to repair what was wrong in that particular road, not just the potholes that met the criteria for being fixed. But then equally, I was in an area of Northampton yesterday where they've gone along and done some really good pothole repairs, but left the ones adjacent to it. It is a problem. We're still working on it. It's starting to happen, but it's not happening all the time, and that's something we are working on. Road safety. Yes, road safety is integral in everything we do, and we're very much looking at that. Unfortunately, we had some issues in the Brackley area last week when the A43 was closed on the B4525, and we're this week trying to improve the signage in order to try and assist in the road safety issues there. The bus improvement strategy, it was rushed and we had no option about that. Unfortunately, we were building our team and the timescale came in, and we did have to rush. But I think our officers have done a remarkable job. We have secured significant finance, and we will be able to invest. The trouble is we're not so sure as to the continuance of the financing. We don't want to be introducing new bus services only to have to withdraw them in 2 months, 2 years, 18 months time, because the funding has run out. So what we want to do is to make sure that our investment is sustainable. And I do agree with Keith that about a user group. And not only a bus user group, we need a rail user group. We had a very effective rail user group that was chaired by Sally Keeble and then subsequently Brian Binley, and it was a very useful in bringing together the rail operators and engaging with the county council at the time and with operators. So I think yes, if we could bring back a rail bus user group across West Northamptonshire, that's probably something going forward as we develop the bus partnership and our work with the bus operators and the rail operators. So yeah, but the bus improvement process has now produced a passenger charter, which has been very well received, and our bus partnership is actually recognised as being quite successful with the Department for Transport, who attend the meetings of the group, and we are actually held up as a good example of a bus improvement working group. So yeah, I too look forward to the action plan and making that realistic and get things on the move. I'll say a bit about Farthinghoe because Farthinghoe has been our priority right from very day one. It was a key issue back in the last election, and it remains a key issue. And I have to say, I don't think we could have bent over any more to try and assist in building a business case for that bypass. We have invested significant amounts of money, more than we would for any other business case, to try and make a business case that stacked up to attract government funding. We're talking of a multi-million-pound investment to deliver this bypass, and we can't do it without government investment unless you want to build 15,000 houses or something like that in Farthinghoe. So we definitely have got to have the money. We work very closely with Andrea Ledson, who we provided with a business case that she took to ministers. We've discussed it with ministers when they were here. So we've actually done a hell of a lot. But unfortunately, that business case under the government, and that's the previous government and this government, under the rules of the successive governments, it simply does not stack up. Yes, it remains a priority, and we've tried to reflect that, as Councillor Breeze pointed out, our comments on page 10. And if anything changes, we will jump straight in with a case for the Farthinghoe bypass. There is an event next week where, as Councillor Breeze has said, where we will be presenting the situation to residents, all residents of Farthinghoe on a drop-in basis. There are other options that we have discussed, such as traffic lights and one-way streets and things like that, and calming measures, etc. So we will be discussing those and putting those to residents to seek out their views as if there is anything that we can possibly do. I mean, if they wanted traffic lights, they could have them very quickly, and similarly, perhaps other measures as well. We do recognise the problem. It is an issue and it's got to be addressed. And traffic lights would, in actual fact, allow for the widening of the footpath to make it much more safer for pedestrians and include a pedestrian barrier to make it even more safe. So there are options, but that's down to the parish and the residents to decide what it is they want. And we look forward to hearing their views. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lowett. Two recommendations on this. Firstly, that we recommend the local transport plan to full council, and secondly, that we agree to delegate authority to the Executive Director for Place and the Cabinet Member for Highways and Transport to agree the final version for publishing. Is Cabinet agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. Item 10 is the One West Northamptonshire Plan for 2025 to 2030. Now, this is being developed to set out partner ambitions and objectives for the next 5 years as local organisations work together on improving outcomes towards achieving the vision of making the area a great place to live, work, visit and thrive. The plan brings together and builds upon the key joint strategies and plans that WNC and its partners have developed during the first 4 years of the new council area, and how WNC will work with them on future actions and strategies as it embarks upon its second phase as a local authority. This follows feedback from the recent peer review, which highlighted the council's good relationships with partners and their desire to work with the council more extensively on achieving the strategic objectives and vision for the area. The draft One West Northamptonshire Plan proposes a single medium-term roadmap and priorities for partners to deliver by 2030. By beginning to pull together the threads of the established key plans and strategies created and co-designed with our partners, WNC created an initial draft of the plan and then needed partners' input and involvement to shape it further and ensure ownership. To introduce the proposed plan and set strong foundations for its development, we invited key partners to a stakeholder event in October held at the Catesby Innovation Centre. It was an extremely well-attended event. We had a really diverse range of businesses, stakeholders and speakers who provided some amazing input and really helped us to craft the plan as it moved along its journey to adoption. There was then a 6-week period of stakeholder engagement and consultation at the start of this year, and that included a consultation event with parish councils as well as the standard public consultation. The feedback from parish councils was particularly informative, and whilst there was widespread support for the plans, there was also some really good suggestions of things that needed to be clarified or added to the plan to make it relevant to them as key stakeholders in our district. That feedback from all of the stakeholders is now being collated and considered with a view to finalising the draft plan for presentation to council next week. So the plan is in front of you, and I have 2 speakers on it. Those are Councillors Randall and Harris.
Thank you, Chair. In the draft document you handed around at the launch last November, it said that the first step of the roadmap would be cross-party engagement sessions with opposition party leadership. Well, either these have happened and we weren't invited because we haven't had a say in this document. I don't think it's a particular tailored piece of work. You could take any of these proposals, change the place names, and it would work for another area. I can't see much about how it's going to achieve these priorities beyond working with partners. I don't think much heart has gone into it. I don't think that we've done what we could have. I think if we hadn't have been prompted by that LGA peer review last year, I just feel like we've just rushed this through to tick a box. And there were 220 people responded, I understand. How can that be representative of 425,000 of our residents? And, you know, surely we should have been pushing this a lot more. Surely we should have been going out to different, you know, places, locations, and really getting positive, you know, really gathering that feedback on this. 220 responses, I just feel is very, very poor. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of what this document is designed to do. It's about mapping out our stakeholder engagement and how we work with key partners. And, you know, as for saying that 220 doesn't adequately represent 425,000, you can make the same argument for any consultation that this council undertakes. You know, the important thing in this particular consultation was that qualitative feedback, actually the very informative responses that we had with some excellent suggestions from key stakeholders across the district. And, you know, to say that it was rushed is deeply unfair. You know, a lot of thought and effort has gone into this. I think with any sort of strategic document of this nature, there are going to be objectives that could translate easily to another part of the country. That goes without saying. But these are priorities that have been co-designed with partners, endorsed by almost all of those partners, and in fact the document's been shaped around their feedback. So I don't accept the criticism, although I respect your views, Councillor Randall. Councillor Harris.
Thank you. Some similar concerns, probably not quite as strong as Wendy's, but if you look in the front part of the transport plan, for instance, there's a very clearly defined path of consultation, which was, to be fair, pretty extensive and quite numerous, and various different workshops that took place over a period of time. And this document doesn't quite have that same vibe. I accept there's been consultation, public consultation. I came to the Catesby meeting. There wasn't a lot of opposition representation there. I don't know whether that was just a timing issue. It was a Wednesday in the middle of the week. That might have been a part of the problem. But to me, it feels like it could have gone a step further from that point of view. And I guess you could argue that with any consultation. Principally for me, it's like a lot of the other plans and strategies that this council lays out. It looks great on paper, but delivery is the key. And I guess that's some of the concerns that I have. And they're actually reflected in comments in the consultation feedback. I noticed one of the comments specifically talking about referred to as broad and unrealistic and lacking realism. And I think that's a challenge of, conceptually, the ideas are sound. And I don't have a particular problem with those because, you could apply those in any scenario and they would be beneficial and useful. But there is this concern or issue for me about actually grounding it and making it real and really using it and driving it home and implementing it. And there are quite a few recurring themes throughout the feedback, the consultation bit, realistic and measurable goals. And there are some narrative in there, but they're not all of that nature in terms of being realistic and measurable. Concerns about local investment and infrastructure, that's a big echo all the way through this because we're heavily reliant on that. The point I made earlier on, environmental sustainability is a theme that comes all the way through, and then safety and well-being. So my plea really is as this moves forward, because I'm sure it will move forward, that we take account of those recurring themes and we do all that we can to make sure that we ground it. We take account of those comments and feedback that people have made. A couple of specific comments on the priority areas. There are clearly very strong linkages to all of the documents that are actually before Cabinet tonight, climate strategy, local transport plan. And again, we must get better at hanging all of those together and making sure that they work collectively and collaboratively. My sense is that we have got a little better at that, but I still think there are some silos that exist that we still have not cut through entirely. And without cutting through those and making sure that all of these things hang together, there is the risk that these documents, these strategies are going to be pulling against each other, which are not going to be very useful for anybody. Priority 4 specifically, lots of comments about affordable. And I know we have an affordable strategy now, and I know we keep talking about delivery of affordable, but it's all linked ultimately to the regulation of developers and being robust with our demands and our requirements. And that's what the local plan will hopefully set out to do. But we all need to take ownership, if any of us around here are back, to ensure that we hold them to account on those. And we've got to stop with this nonsense of viability arguments. And I know that's a national issue. But none of these things are going to come to life unless we actually are very clear about what we want and we enforce it and we'll make sure that they come through. A couple of points just on priority 7. It specifically talked about strong governance. Yeah, strong governance and leadership. I'm not content about the removal of corporate in our future plans for scrutiny. I'm just flagging it there because I think that's part of the issue around governance. And final point is, I'm concerned about over-reliance on voluntary sector, fundamentally. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Harris. I think you make an excellent point about ensuring that all of the different strategies hang together, and actually that's, you can see within this report that the document captures that necessity, clearly mapping out the different strategies, and within the lower tier strategies, if I can put it that way, those measurables are clearly defined, and we know where we're going with those, and then you start drilling down into the costings, etc. This is very deliberately a high-level document so that key stakeholders and indeed the public can see exactly where we're going at that very high level. It's designed to be accessible without going too much into the nitty-gritty. So do Cabinet have any comments whilst we're here? No? In which case then the recommendations are at paragraph 3 of the report. Are we all agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. Item 11 is with Councillor Herring. It's the Housing Asset Management Strategy.
Thank you. I'm pleased to present the Housing Asset Management Strategy 2025 to 2030 for your approval this evening. A key step forward in how we manage over 11,500 council homes across West Northamptonshire. This report, authored by Henry Gregory, our Housing Partnership Manager, details the ambitious 5-year plan developed by Northamptonshire Partnership Homes to ensure that our housing stock is safe, sustainable and fit for the future. NPH has worked with experts ARK and Parity Projects to analyse our stock, grade its performance and map out a 3.7 million push to get all homes to EPC C by 2030. If the stock condition survey identifies poor performing stock, an options appraisal will be presented using the data collected. All of this feeds into the Business Improvement Action Plan provided to the Regulator of Social Housing and is an important feature of the Council returning the housing stock to regulatory compliance. There are 10 priorities identified, which include improved data, ensuring all property held is safe and legal, and improved responsiveness for repairs leading to better tenant satisfaction. There is also an intent to improve whole estates and neighbourhoods, not just individual homes. You'll find the full strategy in Appendix A alongside a community impact assessment in Appendix B, which confirms the broad positive impact for our tenants. The purpose here is straightforward. We need a robust framework to maintain, invest in and improve our homes, adapting to a fast-changing regulatory landscape like the Building Safety Act and upcoming AWEB's law. This strategy is a cornerstone of our commitment to tenant safety, quality homes and sustainable communities, backed by a 30-year investment plan integrated into our housing revenue account budget. It's been shaped by tenant input, like the Sounding Board and Engagement Cafe, and endorsed by MPH's board on the 12th of February. I recommend we note their support, approve the strategy, and commit to quarterly updates to monitor delivery. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Randall, are you speaking for Councillor Purser on this now? Yeah. We've got Councillors Randall and Beardsworth on this item.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, these are some questions that Councillor Purser has left with me. This is a very important document and I know a lot of work has gone into its preparation. I know Winston Williams has seen this as a priority of MPH. It's really important that MPH and WNC work absolutely closely together in implementing this. Capital programmes are an area where we have seen slippage and we do need to drive forward on this. In that context, I am hoping to see an appendix setting out priorities for the short-term and medium-term investment plan. We have some areas of good practice, but also some where tenants are highly frustrated. Getting it right is an area of risk, so it needs to be carefully monitored.
Thank you, Councillor Randall. Councillor Harris. Sorry, Councillor Beardsworth, my apologies.
Thank you, Chair. When I ever read these reports, I think back, when I started in '83 and we had 25,000 properties. And now we're down to just under 1,100. It's frightening, really, how many have been lost to the right to buy, and I know you sympathise with me on this.
11,000.
11,000, sorry, 11,000. I always lose a note somewhere along the line. 11,000. But even so, it's a huge drop of what we've lost through the right to buy. And the trouble is now, even though the government's giving us all the money from right to buy, they will be sold to us back to us at market value. So we will still be paying out more to buy our own stock back. So I'm hoping the government will be lobbied into stopping this, because if we carry on losing at this rate, we will not have much houses to offer the people that are on the lists. Can I just go through a couple of these? I'm very much keen on the idea that we deliver effective and efficient repairs to maintenance services to the needs and expectations of the customer. That isn't happening at the minute. It needs to be. It needs to be done. I know you're aware. I know you're aware of that. Also, safety, gas certificates are so important. And then when I heard that they were saying that they've got 100%, in all my time, you never have 100% because there's always houses you can't get into or people don't want you to go in them. So we really must be very diligent that we actually tell people, portfolio and people that look after the customers, that these are important factors, that we can't afford to have an accident with this. I think it's letting homes as well. Especially, I introduced introductory tenancies when I was on, because we want to make sure people understand what tenancies and take responsibility for them before we gave them a secure tenancy after a year. And that makes them make sure that they behave themselves and they're not a nuisance to the neighbours and they know how to look after their property. And I think that's very important. I do worry a little bit about the fact that we aren't decarbonising our houses quickly enough. I think we need to be looking at alternative fuel, from gas boilers. We're still fitting gas boilers. And it might be a move to look towards electricity rather than ground force heat pumps, because unless you have those and you have solar as well, they aren't really sufficient to do the water and the heating. So it has to be in conjunction with solar panels as well. But insulation is key. Insulation is key in homes, and I'm very pleased you've got it down on your list. I am a little bit perturbed because this should have been doing from day one of MPH. These things are basic, everyday things that a company should be doing, and supporting. So letting homes and support sustainable tenancies is actually helping people. Later this evening, we're talking about Oasis House, and we've got to make sure that people move into our properties and get looked after if they need it. I know the light's flashing.
Thank you, Councillor Bearsworth. We'll go back to Councillor Hemming.
Just to say, the mention was made about the capital programmes, and that was agreed at Cabinet and Council last month. The tenancy policy is coming up next but one, so that will we can have some discussion about that. And the work that's being done is to make the properties safe and legal, and then to actually improve the responsiveness for the repairs, which, as Councillor Purser had pointed out, will lead to better tenant satisfaction. And that's our next focus. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The recommendations are at paragraph 3, as always. Is Cabinet agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. Item 12 is with Councillor Lister, the WNC Active Lives Strategy.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to present the West Northamptonshire Active Lives Strategy for 2025 to 30, a blueprint for creating a more active and healthier community across our region. The data that we see before us presents a clear challenge. 28.8% of our adult population is currently inactive, and over half of our children aren't achieving the recommended 60 active minutes per day. Despite having a rich sporting heritage with over 500 sports clubs, activity levels have remained relatively static for years. Our public consultation revealed the main barriers to physical activity: time constraints, costs, facility quality issues, lack of interest in available activities. People told us they want lower cost options, more locally based facilities and improved infrastructure. In response, our vision to create the conditions that enable everyone in West Northamptonshire to be active. It's not just about launching new programmes, it's about changing how we work together across the council and with our partners. The strategy is built on three key pillars: place, creating and sustaining environments with accessible, well-maintained facilities and enhanced natural spaces; people, creating better opportunities that support sustained behaviour change; and communication, championing engagement with residents and co-producing messages that demonstrate the benefits of an active life. So how will we deliver it? Phase 1, which we've initiated in recent months, focuses on in our internal service conversations, where we're conducting a series of 7-step conversations with departments across WNC, from introduction and discovery through to implementation, evaluation and normalisation. This is optimising our internal practices and identifying how our business as usual can contribute towards active lives. We've already completed pilot conversations with transport, active travel, community safety, economic growth and regulatory services. Phase 2, beginning in May this year, will expand to partner conversations with key external stakeholders, including community groups, sports clubs, town and parish councils, and the NHS. We'll apply the same methodical approach to build sustainable partnerships. We've established a core strategy steering group that will evolve into the Active Life Strategy Board to drive implementation. This group acts as a champion, connects services, fosters co-production, and continuously evaluates our progress. We're working with our business intelligence team to create a live interactive strategy delivery plan that will evolve as we work. Our approach is guided by 5 key principles: whole system approach, collaboration, co-production, continuous learning and evidence-based decisions, all with a focus on tackling inequalities. The strategy aligns with both national priorities from DCMS and Sports England and local objectives in the One West Northamptonshire Plan and Joint Health and Wellbeing Strategy. It particularly supports the thriving people and thriving place themes of our corporate plan. There are huge potential benefits, from reducing heart disease by 25%, depression by 48%, and to strengthening our communities. It's really clear, for every £1 we invest in physical activity, society gains £4 in return. I recommend the report to the Cabinet. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lister. Just the one speaker on this, it's Councillor Squires. Pass from Councillor Squires to any members of the Cabinet. Councillor Golby.
Thank you, Chair. Just briefly, just to totally support the Active Life Strategy, and as it states in there, it's been endorsed by the Health and Wellbeing Board, and we had a couple of sessions at the board talking about the strategy and the importance of the strategy and how it sort of underpins our own health and wellbeing strategy, especially Ambition 3, which is to keep fit, well and independent. And as Councillor Lister mentioned, if you look at our data and statistics as a county, you know, we still need to do better. And this proves, I think it's a very good document to understand where we are, know what we've got to do, and push forward to get everybody more active, because we all know the benefits of being more active in terms of our health and everything else. So totally supportive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd just add that we have some fantastic external partners, particularly N-Sport, who are great delivery partners. They're a small team there, but they're incredibly enthusiastic. They're very well connected as well into Sport England and other key sporting institutions. And I'd just like to place on record my thanks to them for all the fantastic work they do in West Northamptonshire. But Councillor Baker would like to come in.
It's sort of an ad hoc thing, really, but I just want to thank Councillor Lister and his team for the passes which they managed to procure for our care leavers, so that they could readily use any leisure centre of ours without cost. And I heard yesterday on a visit to the Children's Trust that 90% of those passes are being actively used. So that was a really good initiative. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. No other indications to speak, so back to you, Councillor Lister.
Nothing else from me. I'm happy to recommend the recommendations.
Are we all agreed with the recommendations? Agreed. Thank you very much. Back to Councillor Herring now for the West Northamptonshire Tenancy Policy.
Okay. I'm pleased to present the new West Northamptonshire Tenancy Policy for Cabinet approval, set to replace the legacy Northampton Borough Council policy. The policy aligns with our recently adopted tenancy strategy from October 2024 and meets the tenancy standard under the Regulator of Social Housing's consumer standards, effective since April 2024. Its key aims are to support stable communities, sustain tenancies, prevent homelessness, and make efficient use of our housing stock. It introduces introductory tenancies for all new tenants, reintroduces flexible tenancies in exceptional circumstances, and details our approach to succession rights, tenancy fraud, and supports measures delivered through Northamptonshire Partnership Homes. Following a public consultation from October to November 2024 and a review by the Overview and Scrutiny Committee in December, the policy has received positive feedback with no major changes proposed. We recommend Cabinet approve this policy as part of our framework to ensure compliance with legal and regulatory duties while supporting our broader housing goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Two speakers on this, Councillors Randall and Beardsworth. Councillor Holland-Delamere is going to speak instead.
So I'll just read out Councillor Pearce's comments. Although there were relatively few responses to the consultations, this has been well consulted on and has been to scrutiny, so looked at from a number of perspectives. It will be reviewed after 12 months, so I commend the work in producing this strategy. I'm also a leaseholder as well of MPH, so I know live around a lot of tenants in MPH blocks, and I think sometimes it's quite hard to actually get we've still got 11,000. It is 11,000. You nearly gave me a heart attack. 1,100. Sorry. There's still quite a lot of people who really need to engage with our strategies, because it's having that engagement that will really help shape their properties and their homes. So I would recommend this to the committee.
Thank you, Keith. Sally.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try and get my figures right this time. I was looking at the policy, and there are several things in here that I think could be improved upon. Domestic violence. It is on the increase, and what always annoys me is with domestic violence is that if a woman is being treated badly by her partner in her home, we take the woman out of the home with the children and put them in a hostel and leave the perpetrator in the house. Now, to me, that's totally wrong. We should take the perpetrator out and make sure he doesn't get back in. There should be a way of locking the system up. I know people say, well, they will let them in again and all this business, but we need to work with these people that are, and it's not just women, I know it's men as well, but the large majority of them are women. And that way, to disrupt a whole family for one person's bad behaviour is totally wrong. So I would like you to look at that, because there was a model in Tasmania that did that, and they kept the perpetrator, took him away. The police put an injunction, the courts did, stop them from going back into the house. And there was provided a safe room so that she could lock herself into a room if he got into the house. It wasn't major works, but it stopped the children being disrupted from their lives and taken away from their home through no fault of their own. So please have a look at it and see what you can do, because I think it would be a good way forward. I was looking through the papers. I think that's one thing. I think as well, to keep a record of tenants that have been disruptive is very important. I remember years ago I went to visit a lady, and she'd actually had a flood in her bathroom, and it'd come through the ceiling and it all needed redoing. And then I went back to the office and found out in our last tenancy exactly the same thing had happened. So she'd done it deliberately to get work done in her house. So a record of these people is so important to keep to stop them doing it. Also, I've lost my place now, but I believe that tenancies should be supported as well with people that have special needs to prevent evictions. And there was one other thing, and I can't think what it is now, but I'll speak to you later, Rosie, and we'll sort something out. But those are I think it would be quite a good thing for this council to do, because I think it would be very innovative to do that, to stop people being moved down, children out of their houses because of domestic violence. But we need to work with the judiciary and the police to get that done.
Thank you, Councillor Beardsworth. That's a really interesting idea. I don't think we've got any other speakers, so I'll go back to you, Councillor Herring.
Yes, Councillor Beardsworth used exactly the same words that I had. I've had a meeting with 3 different sections that are involved with the domestic abuse issue, including the Community Safety Partnership, and we were saying exactly that it's the perpetrator should be the one that has to move out, not disturbing the people who are the victims, and that we should be supporting them with safety measures. So that has definitely been on the radar, Councillor Beardsworth, and hopefully we'll see more action on that coming forward. And the keeping abreast of disruptive tenants, the new IT project will indeed be providing that information. We'll keep a list, and that will be used in allocating tenancies going forward. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Herring. The recommendations as ever before us at paragraph 3. Is Cabinet agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. We'll proceed then to item 14, which is back to Councillor Lister. It's the West Northamptonshire Economic Growth Strategy.
Thank you, Chair. I'm delighted to present our West Northamptonshire Economic Growth Strategy, a roadmap that will drive inclusive, sustainable economic growth from 2025 to 2030, underpinned by our longer-term vision to 2041. This isn't just a document, it's a tool to secure government attention, attract funding, and position West Northamptonshire as a must-invest destination. Our vision is clear: to create a thriving West Northamptonshire that serves as the beating heart of the country's technology revolution. Our strategy addresses several critical challenges we currently face: a productivity gap with workers producing £2.80 less output per hour than the England average, an employment profile heavily concentrated in lower value sectors, a 3% decline in our business space between 2019 and 24, more business deaths than births in recent years, and lower workforce qualification levels and significant inequalities across our region. To overcome these challenges, we've structured our approach around 3 core themes: people, place, and business. These are complemented by 2 cross-cutting themes, connected and ambitious, that flow through the entire strategy. Under each theme, we've identified 4 key priorities with clear deliverable actions. At the heart of our strategy is a focus on innovative technologies, the application and use of new technologies to develop and commercialise new products, processes, and services. This focus aligns perfectly with the government's modern industrial strategy and positions West Northamptonshire to play a key role in priority areas such as AI and defence. We've identified 6 investment sectors that will generate high economic impact and create higher paying skilled jobs. These are advanced manufacturing, advanced logistics, life sciences, motorsport, clean energy, and creative and digital. We recognise the importance, though, of our foundational economy, healthcare and education, as well as our experience economy, which encompasses tourism, heritage, sport, culture, and retail. To ensure effective delivery, we're establishing an economic growth board with representatives from external stakeholders and business. This board will oversee implementation of all actions and collaborate with existing forums to drive economic development across the region. The Economic Growth and Investment Service will lead delivery with clear, responsible assignments and timelines for each section. Our comprehensive action plan categorises initiatives by cost implications, low, medium and high, ensuring realistic resource allocation. We've already begun implementation with the launch of our Invest in West Northants brand and website, which is gaining momentum as a key tool for attracting investment. This strategy puts our residents at the centre of everything we aim to achieve. For the people of West Northamptonshire, our visions include creating pathways to higher skilled, better paid employment opportunities that enhance quality of life and financial security, reducing economic inactivity by connecting residents with tailored support and training aligned with our growth sectors, narrowing the inequalities gap, particularly in areas of Northampton with high levels of deprivation, improving life chances for children and young people through better educational alignment with future employment opportunities, ensuring economic benefits reach all communities, not just concentrated areas of growth, developing vibrant town centres that enhance community life and well-being, and creating an environment where residents can develop the skills needed to thrive in an evolving economy. We're particularly focused on developing a skilled workforce that matches business needs, ensuring our residents can access and benefit from the high-value jobs we're working to create. The foundational economy sectors we're supporting, including health, care and education, will directly enhance residents' quality of life across the region. Beyond these resident-focused goals, our ambitions are extended to positioning West Northamptonshire at the beating heart of the country's technology revolution, capitalise on our strategic location with the Oxford-Cambridge Growth Corridor to capture a significant proportion of the projected £78 billion economic boost, transform our employment profile by driving growth in high-value sectors, reverse the business decline and create a thriving entrepreneurial ecosystem, and achieve our ambitious carbon reduction targets, net zero for commercial emissions, council emissions by 2030, and for residents and businesses by 2045. Success will be measured against clear KPIs, including increased productivity levels, greater employment investment activities, improved business formation rates, and reductions in inequalities and deprivation. This strategy is essential in realising the vision set out in the One West Northants plan and supports our mission to create inclusive opportunities for all our residents, businesses and future generations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lister. And I think we should also note that the economic growth strategy was launched at the Growth Summit at the Silverstone Museum very recently, where we had the honour of hosting Sir Andy Street, the former West Midlands Mayor, who was kind enough to endorse much of the strategy's contents and give us some helpful tidbits of his own advice from that valuable experience, not just at the West Midlands Combined Authority, but also during his professional career. The event was attended by an amazing array of businesses, from Mercedes to businesses around the Silverstone Technology Cluster, high performance manufacturing, retail, logistics, everything that we have in West Northamptonshire coming together to endorse us as an area that is a highly investable proposition and an area well positioned for growth. But the way to best position West Northamptonshire for growth is, in my view, for the government to create a South Midlands strategic mayoral authority. And that's not just my view, that's a view recently endorsed by the South Midlands Business Board, containing businesses of the stature of Cranfield University, Cosworth, Prologis and Luton Airport. So the direction of travel for us should be clear to government. If they want growth in Northamptonshire, the way forward is the South Midlands. But we have two speakers on this item. They're Councillors Randall and Harris.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. It sounds like that was a really good event. It would have been nice if we'd been invited to go along as well. And I think if we get into power after the election, we will do things differently and we will invite opposition along, because it's good to know and meet these people. How much did we pay for this? Because reading through it, I don't understand why our officers didn't pull this together. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of points from me. Again, this is one of those documents that looks like a grand plan in glorious isolation, but the same echo is going to be about execution. Clearly, that's the fundamental point about it. There's some inconsistencies in terms of labelling and language. It talks about the local plan for West Northamptonshire 2041. I thought that was now pushed back to 2043 because we're not at the point where we've got Reg 19 coming forward yet. So again, it's just a technical point of making sure that we have that alignment. Is it 2043 or is it 2041 fundamentally? I think we just need to be clear on the language. It clearly needs additional level of detail about what those innovative technologies actually look like. It talks, there's a lot of reference, and we're all very proud of our motor racing heritage in this neck of the woods. But actually, it's still relatively low employment numbers if you look at the grand scheme of things. And Councillor Lister talked about legacy areas, health workers, construction. They all employ more people than the Formula One world and arena does. Now, that's not to say there's not more opportunity to do that, but I think we've just got to make sure that the reflection of the economic plan is truly reflective of the other roles that exist around here. And one of the ones that specifically, of course, is distribution. We're the largest distribution area in the country, full stop, 3,300 distribution outlets at last count, maybe slightly higher. And, you know, that has got mixed emotions across our West Northampton area, as we know. There are some benefits, of course, and, you know, we are where we are and location is where we are, so we're always going to see that type of operation. But I think, again, employment numbers for that sector is something like 57,000. So it's just really, what I'm trying to say is I'm not sure yet that I'm convinced this is going to take us in other directions leading to creative digital innovation technologies, because we've got such a big legacy of some of those other sectors and industry. Good to see in this document there is very clear cross-referencing to other plans and strategies. That's great to see. ECHO is, again, referrals not enough. We need to make sure that they actually do join together and they're implemented accordingly. One area specifically that I can't really see any content on, I may have missed it, there's not really much specific about our liaison and work with colleges, technical colleges in particular. Moulton is a good example. There's work already going on at Moulton to put in place the training of up to 60,000 people in the green job sector. I hate the green job label, but that's the only one that we can use at this stage, by 2035. And it's not clear how we're going to work effectively with any of our further education establishments to grow that more quickly, any funding issues or opportunities that sit around it. So I'd like to see a little bit more about that, because I think that's a clear opportunity to drive growth in any of these sectors that are referred to. And then finally, on page 502, it talks about family hubs being established in 2024. If I'm not mistaken, we don't yet actually have Family Hub open. I think it's due to open, but it's not yet open. So again, I just want to make sure it's technically correct.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. So I'll pass over to the Chief Executive in the first instance. He doesn't have a microphone right now.
I was just going to pick up the skills strategy piece, actually, because this is a good example of where there is absolutely a read across piece from the One West Northants plan, which we tried to make sure happened. So under priority one, we've got the creation of the all age skills strategy work, and part of the economic development team's work and building on the economic plan is absolutely working with the schools, colleges, etc. We're meeting them all regularly on what are the skills we need for tomorrow, what are employers telling us, and then developing those courses, and that involves all the universities, all the higher and further education. So I just wanted to kind of show you that the read across was there, and we did some work to make sure that the two connected up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'll just pass over to the Executive Director for People Services.
Just to confirm, it is an error. The Family Hubs is 2025, not 2024. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Back to Councillor Lister then.
Thank you, and we'll absolutely cross-reference and make sure all those little dates are worked out. You know, I'm very keen. I know Councillor mentions the cross-referencing our strategies. You'll notice I have mentioned them several times, including the One West Northamptonshire plan across both of the strategies I've presented so far, and we're very passionate, especially in economic development and growth, to make sure that we do cross-reference everything, because we do feel like we sit in the middle of all of these. We need to ensure that we need to have happy, healthy, places. We have to have good roads, good buses, good environment and everything else to make our employment levels increase. We can't just artificially say we want people to come here. So we're very passionate about making sure that everything works together, and we are one council working together for a common purpose. Liaison work with further education establishments, 100% that's in there. We're already working, say, with Moulton, University of Northampton. Those conversations are ongoing, how we can tailor our courses, understand what people need, working with our employers to understand what type of employment they think, what type of skills that they need to ensure people are coming away with the right skills, coming out of education with the right skills for the type of jobs that we are creating in West Northamptonshire. Distribution is covered in there as well. That's part of the future logistics it talks about. Yes, we're not going to put logistics back in the bag in West Northamptonshire. I don't think it's there and it's going to stay, but we can start to work with people like Prologis, Segro, to talk about that future, what that future logistics looks like, how we work with them on automation, rail freight, how we work with them to improve the skill and quality of the jobs within those sectors. I commend the recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Has Cabinet agreed with the recommendations? Agreed. Thank you very much. Okay, we've been going for just over 2 hours, in which time we've covered 8 papers. There are another 6 remaining. So I propose that we take a 10-minute break and reconvene at 8:15. Okay, thank you, everybody. We'll resume on item 15, which is the strategic risk register with Councillor Longley.
Thank you, Chair. Right, well, this is, I think, the first time this has come up on a regular basis. I just explained the arrangements that are now in place, well, have been for a while. This is coming up so that the Cabinet gets cited on it on a regular basis. So that's why it's here tonight. And it will come up to the Cabinet on a yearly basis. That's the current plan. But in practice, as it says in the report, this is reviewed on a quarterly basis. And on a quarterly basis, it's reviewed by the CEO, Anna, we all know, obviously, Sarah, our monitoring officer, and Martin, our financial director. And there's the overview. But of course, the Audit and Governance Committee, these are the people that do the spade work, as we all know, and they update this on a monthly basis. So that's how it works. That's the arrangement, and the risk register here is the current one. See, and of course, forever changing scenes. It's not changed dramatically in the content, although a lot of the risks come and go and go up and down. Apart from 2 points, I would ask to point out to you, and that's the references to materialization and crystallization. Now, what that means, that's different. That's newly in these reports. And materializations means that the risk is actually happening. It's for real, albeit it hasn't had any impact on the council as yet. Crystallization is when it's for real and it is happening and affecting the council. So, and in fact, if you read the document, you'll see the implications of that. I don't propose to go through the risks. There's a lot of them. You can all see them for yourselves. And if anybody has any specific items, I think that's always best taken offline because there's a lot of detail here. And on that basis, Chair, I'd finish my speech on this one for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Longley. We have 3 speakers on this item. Councillors Holland-Delamere, Randall and Squires.
Firstly, I just want to acknowledge the work of Adrian, who's done a lot of work on this. And I know that in the 2 years that I've been on the Audit and Governance Committee, it's quite a relief to actually see that we have a clearer picture of what the challenges are for our organisation and how we manage those risks. I mean, from my time on overview and scrutiny, some of these items have been sort of talked about and rearing their heads for quite a long time. And I recognise the fact that some of the transformation around data management is to do with the transformation of our systems behind it. And it's what are you looking at and when do you look at it? Because if you've got new systems coming in, they'll solve the problem. So I think this is one area which I know the Scrutiny Committee is still looking at, and I know that Audit and Governance will be looking at transformation of our computer systems, etc. And one thing that, of course, also came out, you've got SR 15 that's now coming off the agenda, but at last audit, we were clearly aware that we've still got one item that we need to take into consideration from the disaggregation, etc. And I think that's one thing that we need to be really, really conscious of, that as we interrogate the figures, etc., that we have a clear picture of what the risks are. And that's one thing that we just need to be aware of and cognizant of.
Thank you, Keith. Councillor Randall.
Thank you, Chair. Just picking up on the risks that have been added, the counter-terrorism one. How can we expect the investment to get to this issue fully, actually resolved? I don't know what the plan is for that going forward. EHCPs, it's despite the money that we invested last year, we're still not delivering the right education for our SEND children. I I just don't see an end to it. You know, it's so sad, and and some of the things, even the statutory duties. So I was talking to the head at Daventry Hill School today, and she said she can't even give her pupils meet the statutory obligation of having a PE lesson because they've got, no outdoor space. So, our SEND children are being, I just feel like they're being really let down. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Randall. Hopefully you'll take up the offer from the Executive Director for people to walk you through the steps that we are taking and the issues inherent within that challenge. Councillor Squires.
Thank you, Chair. On the recommendations, it's item C. It talks about audit and governance and reporting any significant concerns back to Cabinet. Now, at a recent audit and governance meeting, there were two items that I thought would be highlighted in this report, but it might be a timing issue. I don't know. These two items are sort of under SR6. The difficulties in recruiting into the audit team and us having to rely on external auditors to fulfil the audit plan. And can we actually fulfil it? Can they actually find external auditors? Can we actually complete that audit plan? The second one, I think it was sort of under SR16, which was the Grant Thornton audit, which talks about issues on the accounts and concerns over £46 million worth of debtors that could not be evidenced. I suppose my question to you, Chair, is are the Cabinet aware of these two items? Because in my view, they would have a material impacts on the Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Squires. We'll go back to Councillor Longley for the responses to all the speakers.
Fine, thank you, Chair. Well, the first one, thanks, Guy. I totally agree with you, and got to realise what a risk register is, and you clearly have. So thanks for your comments on that. We think they're quite good. Wendy, this is a risk register, and one of your comments, which I entirely agree with, is there's no end to it. Well, there isn't. That's the whole point. There never will be. Terrorism, for example, these are risks. That's the reality of a risk register. And we're trying to say, these are the risks, and you can go on forever, really. That's the trouble, is where to stop and start is always a problem on a risk register. But these have been identified as best the groups can, and they're professionals, so I think they're pretty good. And as a consequence, it will go on. And once these are gone, it'll be something else, I'm sure. Some things we haven't even thought of yet, they'll come on. So there is no end to it. Carl, thank you for those comments. I hope they're right time. The SR06, I'm reliably informed, is your first comment is in there, and it was not considered to be material for the Council, albeit it is for the audit committee or the audit group. And the second one I'd have to take advice on, so I don't know. But thanks for your comments, and that's absolutely it. I mean, if there are additional risks of significance, then yeah, they should be there, and that's what it's for. That's what we got. And as people identify other things, by all means, pass them on to the appropriate group, and they'll be considered whether they're sufficient or not to go onto this list. But that's how it stands at the moment. So you'll be cited on that as a Cabinet on a yearly basis. And good luck with it, because that's the risk register. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Longley. Any further comments or observations? Chief Executive.
I just wanted a couple of things really. So EHCP has obviously been raised a couple of times tonight, and I know that you're going to take up the offer to speak to Stuart. I do think we have to remember in terms of some of the challenges that we've got on this, and we say it all the time, but it needs to be said tonight about the year-on-year rise in numbers coming through. So we are again 20% up this year. So if you're not expanding the teams and you can't get the educational psychologist, you are clearly going to get more and more of them, in terms of the challenge and meeting them. And that's a national challenge, at which point I think it's quite important we point to the national strategy work that's going on at the moment. And the number one thing for that is inclusion in mainstream schools and how we develop those, hopefully some capital funding to help us develop those and to continue. I know it's not on the risk register per se, but Daventry Hill School, I just want to pick up specifically because we are discussing active plans with them about expanding their space, and also their sixth form and their SEND provision specifically, which is currently splitting in the Icon Centre and not working for them. So I just wanted to say that. The last one, just on the debtors point, I know a briefing was sent round obviously to Cabinet. I just think it's important we just mention that had happened, and I could be wrong, but Martin will nod at me. We started with 46 million. It's already down to about 28 million, I think, in terms of the reviews that we've done, and we continue to do that work. So we are some way off getting to a point where it becomes a risk in terms of write-offs, and the work continues, and it's very, very detailed work, but a good job being done by the team. So I just wanted to raise that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything further from you, Councillor Longley?
No, I don't think so. I think Anna's covered that one rather well, and I could comment further on it, but I don't think that's the place tonight. Thanks anyway.
Thank you very much. As ever, recommendations are at paragraph 3. Is Cabinet agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. Over to Councillor Golby for item 16, which is the Adults Direct Payment Policy.
Thank you, Chair. So following approval from Cabinet back in November last year, we entered into an 8-week public consultation period to gather feedback about the proposed changes as outlined in the Cabinet paper. To summarise, these changes are to introduce a direct payments policy which sets out how Council administers and manages direct payments. Secondly, to introduce the option to have eligible transport needs met by a direct payment. And thirdly, to establish a change to how direct payments for unpaid carers are managed, where eligibility assessments will be considered in line with the needs of the person receiving care to offer a more well-rounded support package. While the Council had a robust communication strategy around the public consultation, the response rate for the feedback was lower than we expected. But despite this, the feedback received was of a good quality and has helped us to shape what our policy looks like. A full consultation summary report is included with the Cabinet paper in the appendices. In addition, the approach to direct payments received pre-Cabinet scrutiny from the Adult Social Care and Health Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and the feedback received was in favour of the proposals, and this is noted in the Cabinet paper. Overall, the feedback received from the public was largely in favour of the proposals outlined, and as a result, Adult Services are asking for approval from Cabinet to implement the direct payments policy and associated changes from the 1st of April 2025. So we are asked to consider the notes and feedback analysis from the consultation process in Appendix A, note the contents of the report and approve the introduction of the transport direct payments and changes to the carers direct payments, and also approve the new adults direct payment policy at Appendix B. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Just one speaker on this, Councillor Beardsworth.
Thank you, Chair. I will be very brief. Can I just say that whenever we do anything that slightly changes, there's always some glitches. Now, I don't know if you were listening to Radio 4 this morning when I was getting ready to come out, and there was a programme about carers and the difficulties they have in life. And if it's going to direct payments, I'm quite happy with that, as long as there's no glitches in the system and they get the money on time, because they don't get a lot of money for what they do, and some of them don't get anything at all. And we're very lucky to have carers, because without them, social care would just collapse, because we'd have to look after an awful lot more people. So it's a plea, really, more than anything else, is if we're going to do this, and I think we will, that we actually make absolutely sure there's no glitches, because people rely on these payments to exist. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Beardsworth. Do we have any comments from around the table? Yep, Stuart.
Thank you, Councillor Beardsworth. Just to reassure you, the Carrot Direct payments are a feature of the totality of the support we provide to carers. It's not about us moving away from the things we do currently. It's about us being really clear about how we can support carers better through the use of a direct payment. Wherever possible, we get that money out as quickly as we possibly can to that carer to enable them to kind of get on with their lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Golby.
Yeah, just to add, I did hear some of the Radio 4 programme this morning, actually, and I agree with the points Councillor Beardsworth made. Thank you.
Excellent. Apologies. Recommendations as ever at paragraph 3. Is Cabinet agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. Still with Councillor Golby, I believe. Item 17, the provision of integrated alcohol and drug services.
Thank you, Chair. So as we all know, drugs and alcohol harms have a huge impact, not just to the individuals involved, but to their families, the communities and wider West Northamptonshire economy. West Northamptonshire Council has a legal responsibility to reduce health inequalities and enhance the health and well-being of its residents. This includes the commissioning of services for the treatment and prevention of alcohol and drug use. The 6 existing contracts held by the Council for county-wide provision of children and young people's prevention and treatment service, an adults treatment service, an adult recovery service, a family support service and a specialist training service all expire at the end of 31st March 2026. Agreement was reached at the Shared Services Joint Committee back in October for West and North Northamptonshire councils to commission their services separately from 2026 onwards. So in summary, the proposal is that we continue a level of investment in these services, but seek to achieve greater integration and efficiency by integrating the contracts as a single holistic prevention, treatment, recovery and advice service. The minimum value of the contract will therefore be 3.46 million per annum, as it is built into the Public Health Core grant budget, with a maximum value of 6 million per annum to provide flexibility and ability to add service enhancements rapidly in response to increased funding posts. As recommended by Dame Carol Black in a National Independent Review of Drugs, we propose a minimum 5-year contract up to a maximum of 10 years, and Dame Carol Black visited us here in West Northampton, I think it was actually the year before last. We know that preventing, treating and supporting recovery from alcohol and drug use disorders requires a holistic and multi-agency approach. While partners across the system already work closely together, we believe that a single service will ensure that no one falls between the cracks. In procuring the integrated service, the service specification will be clear in its expectation for a minimum level of investment in the various service elements, e.g. prevention, children and young people's treatment and family support, an expectation for growing and supporting local grassroots and lived experience-led small organisations. So the request to Cabinet is to improve the commencement of a competitive tender exercise for the provision of the integrated alcohol and drug treatment, recovery and support service for a period of 5 years, with the option to extend for up to 5 years for a maximum contract length. The rest is around the delegations, and I just wanted to add that I've been on a number of visits to some of the service that are provided that have been commissioned under the current service, and I've been extremely touched and moved and really impressed with the work that goes on in our county, and that's all overseen by the Combating Drugs and Alcohol Partnership, which is a county-wide collective of partners that are really committed to improving the impact of drugs and alcohol for the residents of Northamptonshire. So very happy to propose we accept the recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Matt. Yeah, really, really important work. We've just got one speaker on this. It's Councillor Beardsworth again.
Thank you. How important this it is to all of us. But I also wondered if we couldn't have it's drug and alcohol, but gambling is just as destructive in people's lives as drug and alcohol. And I just wondered, is there any way we can bring that in as well with this thing? Because basically a lot of families are completely destroyed, and there's a lot of suicides attached to people that have gambled. I know this is very important and we need to help people, but I think we also need to widen it and look at people with gambling addictions that could ruin their lives or even take people's lives. So, but I welcome if we can carry on, because we have been very good with drug and alcohol in the past.
Thank you, Councillor Bearsworth. Councillor Golby.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's a fair point, Sally. And I do know some of the services that are currently commissioned and that will be included in this actually deal and offer support services around things like gambling as well. I don't know if Sally, the DPH, wanted to just add to that.
Yeah, just to reassure Councillor Beates, we are actually doing a piece of work on gambling as well and looking at a bit of a needs assessment. So looking to bring that forward.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Golby has already outlined the recommendations. Is Cabinet agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. Item 18 is still with Councillor Golby. It's the Household Support Fund 7.
Yes, thank you. It's just asking us to approve the use of the Household Support Fund 7th. We've got a 12-month allocation, which, as it currently stands, is less than the previous 12 months. And I think, I have to say, I think the team do a fantastic job of making sure we spend every single penny. I always check that when I have my briefings, how's it gone? Have we got any money left? And the answer is always no. And so, yeah, I'm not going to go into it, the details in the report, Chair. I'm very happy to propose we accept the recommendation.
Thank you very much. I believe we've got 3 speakers on this. That my briefing note has a slight error in the title, but I think we've got Councillors Holland, Delamere, Randall and Harris.
Yeah, so I was on the cross-party anti-poverty strategy meeting recently, where we discussed this. So I welcome the fact that we are learning lessons from previous HSF rounds. Just one question on page 739. There's cover a wide range of low-income households in need, and these those struggling with one-off financial shocks or unforeseen events. One of the things I brought up on that meeting was experience that I've had with one of the casework that I've been involved with. So we've got a situation where someone's struggling with council tax debt. We send it off to a debt collection agency. And on a debt of £182 through the debt collection agency, we end up adding an extra £310. Basically, we've got to be really thinking about joined up thinking in terms of, with one hand, we're supporting a family, and then with another hand, we're slapping them in the face. We've got to be more joined up on that one.
Thanks, Keith. Councillor Randall. Passes. Councillor Harris.
Thank you. I'll be brief on this. This is really good to see that this fund has rolled over. It's an extremely important fund. Some of you may or may not know that I'm one of the coordinators of the Brixworth Food Larder, which has been running for 3 years now. We don't often get the opportunity to big them up and say thank you. So to give you some context, our volunteers gave to the community about 3,500 hours or 438 days just over the last year, really, which is phenomenal. And in terms of this reaching people, in terms of the food, the opportunity to buy food and share good food around the community, and it isn't just Brixworth folk, it's much wider community catchment than just Brixworth. We were able to support 2,303 children and 5,728 adults. So I'm glad to see that we're continuing with the route of being able to support larders and buy food for larders. It goes much further than just the voucher system that we had in the past or the very original origin. So I welcome it, and just wanted to take the opportunity to thank all volunteers that work in this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. My thanks as well to everyone who's volunteering at Brixworth Community Larder and all the other community larders. I visited the Woodford Holst community larder a few months ago, and the work done there is really impressive. They've turned into massive community assets, really bringing people together in welcoming environments, and giving people a sense of freedom and relief from what are often really, really difficult circumstances. So that work should be hugely applauded, and long may we continue to support them. That's it for our speakers. Does anyone wish to add anything to the debate? Councillor Baker.
Yes, you've mentioned two of our larders, but obviously we've got them all over the place. We have them in Towcester, and of course we have them in Brackley, as I'm sure you know. But also it's really good that we've been able to support our low-income families in the school holidays, as we have done. This was something that I know I called for way back many years ago when there was a crisis, and this council has managed to carry on the support of these vouchers throughout all of the holidays for the whole of this term that we've been here in office. And I'm really glad to say that we've been able to continue to do that. It has made a lot of difference to people. As Councillor Harris says, those families come into our food larders and they tell us how grateful they are for those vouchers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Back to you, Councillor Golby.
Yeah, thank you. Going back to Keith's point, that's really exactly why we set up the anti-poverty strategy, wasn't it? That working group to avoid situations like that. So I hope something got resolved there, and if not, then there's still work that we need to do. And just to echo the points around thanking all the volunteers. We all know them in our local areas. They're all very different, but all trying to achieve the same thing, aren't they? And they do a fantastic job. But underpinned by a lot of the money from things like the Household Support Fund. So it's great that we've got the money, 3.658 million, and I'm sure that will be dispersed in a very efficient and good way to get as much out to families in need as possible. So happy to recommend. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You've all seen the recommendations. Is Cabinet agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. Penultimate item on the agenda. We're back to Councillor Lister for the Greyfriars English Cities Fund appointment.
Thank you, Chair. I'm delighted to present what I believe is the most significant regeneration opportunity for Northampton in a generation. The Greyfriars development represents a pivotal moment in our town's evolution and a chance to create lasting prosperity for our communities. As the largest brownfield site in West Northamptonshire, Greyfriars offers us an extraordinary canvas to reimagine our town centre. I'm excited to share that we're recommending the appointment of the English Cities Fund as our development partner, bringing together the expertise of Homes England, Legal & General and Muse to deliver this ambitious vision. What excites me most about this project is its transformative potential. We're not just talking about developing a site that has stood derelict for over a decade. We're creating a new urban quarter that will bring more than 1,000 new homes to our town centre. These homes will span various tenures, creating a diverse community right in the heart of Northampton. The economic impact cannot be overstated. Our analysis indicates the development will generate over £500 million in economic benefits, creating thousands of jobs during construction and operation. For our existing businesses, the influx of new residents will drive footfall and spending, reinvigorating our retail and hospitality, retail and hospitality sectors. Beyond the numbers, I'm passionate about what this means for Northampton's identity. This development will create new cultural and community spaces, enhance public realm and green areas that will make our town centre more vibrant, more livable and more sustainable. We're not just about building structures, we're building a place where people want to live, work and spend their leisure time. The partnership with English Cities Fund gives me confidence that we can deliver on this vision. Their track record in transforming similar areas in Salford and Plymouth demonstrates their ability to overcome viability challenges and create high-quality developments that stand the test of time. Looking ahead, following Cabinet approval, we'll finalise our development agreement by summer, engage with the public this autumn, submit planning applications next spring and aim to begin construction in 2027. This is a long-term commitment to Northampton's future and one that I believe will create lasting benefits for generations to come. Greyfriars isn't just a development project, it's a statement of our ambition for Northampton and our community to creating a thriving, sustainable town centre that we can all be proud of. I'm excited about the journey ahead and the transformation we're about to embark upon. I recommend the report to Cabinet. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Lister. Incredibly exciting. We've got two speakers on this, Councillors Randall and Beardsworth. Okay. It's nice to know that he's here in spirit, if not in body.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so this is a vital scheme for the future of West Northampton and Northampton in particular. It's ambitious and important for the future of central Northampton. Welcome keeping the option open for compulsory purchase powers. Elsewhere in Northamptonshire, we've seen the delay in powers of developers holding ransom strips. How do we make sure that momentum is maintained? It looks like the council is putting in relatively little of the money, so how do we ensure that the council remains in the driving seat?
Thank you, Bob. Councillor Lister.
Thank you, Bob. Wendy. I mean, the council owns the land. The council will work with English Cities Fund. They're about creating a partnership. This isn't about us just giving it to a development partner and saying, build something. This is about working as a partner with ECF who want to see something come forward that works for us, and we want to work with them, and that's very much the conversation we have with them, that it's got to work for Northampton, it's got to work for West Northamptonshire, and it's got to work for them. And you look at the other projects that they've done, like in Salford, this is all about creating the community that the council was looking for and the area was looking for, and how they've reimagined that. So I'm sure I'll speak for the officers as well, that we're very passionate about delivering something that does work for all of us across West Northamptonshire. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dan. You mentioned the officers. I think that regen team is an absolutely superb team. You know, the passion and the ambition that they have for the area is remarkable, and just the enthusiasm is tangible whenever we have a briefing or a conversation with them. So thanks to everyone involved.
Completely agree with you. And I've said I've covered active lives, I've covered economic development and regeneration, and it's a real privilege to work with such talented people across West Northamptonshire. We're very lucky to have all of the officers across that area. Thank you, Chair.
Absolutely. Okay, so the recommendations at paragraph 3, is Cabinet agreed? Agreed. Last but not least, Councillor Herring is presenting a paper on strategic acquisition. We do have a pink paper alongside this, so if our two speakers wish to reference the pink paper, please let me know. Councillor Randall does. I'll allow Councillor Herring to introduce the report, and then we'll move into private session.
WNC is the freehold owner of the land Oasis House stands on, and Northampton Borough Council leased it to Midland Heart for 125 years, and they constructed Oasis House at their cost on the site. The building provides 59 bed spaces for people with support needs and those who have experienced homelessness and rough sleeping. Midland Heart now want to move away from supported living provision. The recommendation is to extend the current contract for a further 6 months to allow due diligence to take place and allow the purchase of the property together with the current residents to remain in situ. I'd better not mention that bit because that's on pink paper. Therefore, the report recommends that we acquire the property with the tenants in situ, to delegate authority to the Assistant Director of Assets and Environment, together with the Section 151 officer, the portfolio holder for housing, portfolio holder for finance, to negotiate and acquire the property by the way of surrender of the long lease, and including completion of the legal requirements and consideration of the land being appropriated from the general fund to the housing revenue account.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I now need to move that under Section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the grounds that if the public were present, it would be likely that exempt information under paragraph 3 of Part 1 of Schedule 12A to the Act would be disclosed to them. Is Cabinet agreed?